Don't play with it, don't be dishonest. Still.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dogs and cats, welcome back to the Hands Down Podcast with your host, Javid Nordell. Guys, I'm super excited for today's episode. Today's episode is going to be a baseball-only episode as we are in the midst of playoff baseball right now. October, let me tell you this. October and April are my two favorite months as a sports fan because I get every sport all the time. October, right now it's unfortunate because the Jazz are ass, the Braves are ass, the Saints are ass. So I don't really get to enjoy it, but there's a lot to watch. But generally in October, there would be postseason baseball, which generally the Braves are involved in that, right? And then we're in the middle of football. The Saints just got their first win. Shout out Jackson Dart and Cam Scatterboo. Then basketball starts here in about 2-3 weeks, I think on the 22nd or 23rd. So then I have basketball to look forward to. Now, as a Jazz fan, there's not much to look forward to, but we have Ace Bailey this year. So October, there's the Jazz, I can watch basketball. There's the Braves, usually I can watch postseason baseball, but I still can watch postseason baseball. And then, of course, there's football. And on top of that, hockey. If y'all watch hockey, hockey is there. And then obviously in April's the fun time because it's the NBA postseason. So like I said, postseason. So the Jazz usually aren't involved in that. Last 3 years they haven't been. But usually I'll watch the postseason. And then obviously you're in the second month of baseball. So it's always fun and entertaining to be watching the postseason basketball. And then going into kind of just chill, watch your team shit on another team for 9 innings. And on top of that, you have other sports going on. The only other sport that's not going on during that time is football. But technically, free agency is semi-happening because that happens like the end of March, beginning of April. So you have at least the news of football to look forward to. But yeah, April and October, two of my favorite times of the year because as a sport viewer, there is so much to watch. That being said, today's episode, we're going to jump into a reflection of obviously the wild card round. We saw an electric matchup between the Yankees and the Red Sox, the Tigers and the Guardians, and then of course we saw the Cubs and the Padres, and then we saw the Dodgers and the Reds as well. Which, man, can you guys believe that? It was so weird seeing the Dodgers in the wild card round. It's not something you would have expected to see the Dodgers in the wild card round. But yet, it was. After we talk about the wild card, we'll take a look into the divisional series. Then I do want to take a quick brief, like 5 minutes per, and we're going to take a look at each division, American League and National League, and kind of expectations / what they should do next year, kind of the direction, and if I think they're going to be back in the postseason or if they're going to kind of fall off next year. And then obviously in a future video I do, one of my very first videos I did on this Hands Down Podcast channel was a baseball, Cy Young, the postseason, etc. But I want to kind of wait till it's a little bit more because I did predictions of postseason, wild card, NLDS, ALDS, NLCS, ALCS, and the World Series itself. So I will probably wait to react to that video, probably another 2 weeks, maybe a month, just because that gives me time to see how this postseason pans out, right? Obviously. And then it also gives us time to see who the MVP is. I mean, we have an idea of who it's most likely going to be, but that allows us to see who the actual MVP is, who the actual Cy Young is. So I'm super excited to make that video, but that video is coming shortly because I do want to reflect on actualities of this season. How does that sound, y'all? Sound good? Okay, let's get into this postseason because this postseason has been absolutely wild, I tell you, wild. Let's start off in the NL. The Dodgers put belt to ass on the Reds, but did we really expect anything else? The Dodgers have shown time and time again that they are a pay-to-win team. When you have a Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani, Freddie Freeman, Teoscar Hernandez, Clayton Kershaw, Will Smith, like the list goes on. I can't necessarily say that MLB needs a salary cap because it's really hard to put a salary cap in the MLB, but I feel like we need to have a CBA, a collective bargain agreement of some sort. Maybe it's not a salary cap necessarily, but I feel like there needs to be a little bit more discipline in there, because I do think it's ridiculous that you can have the teams like the Yankees, like the Dodgers, like the Padres, like the Rangers, and just go out and pay to win all these big names free agents, because you have New York, you have Texas, you have LA as enticing free agent and slash living spots. But then you get to the places where, I say this as a Jazz fan, Utah, Seattle, places like that where you don't get as much, and you kind of just have to hope based off if you drafted well, and then on the shocking part that you make a trade to get, in this sense, the Giants, when they went out and got Rafael Devers. The Giants are a good enough team that they can stay afloat in the NL West, right? They can stay competitive with the Dodgers and the Padres in that division, but they're not gonna, it's not gonna be a free agent's first thought to go like, man, if I'm gonna go play in California, I want to go play in San Francisco. So first thought, if you're gonna play in California, what you're gonna want to go play in LA, and that's for the Dodgers, not the Angels. So in this sense, when you make a trade to get a Rafael Devers, that's kind of like the best you can do to get somebody on your roster. I wish the MLB would do, and maybe that's league realignment. We had some speculation that there might be some league realignment here in the future, but we don't necessarily know what that looks like. And the logistics of it, I guess we know what it looks like, but we don't really know the logistics of it. One thing we did see if we do it is it would put the Phillies, the Yankees, the Mets, and the Red Sox all in one division. I will pay a premium price to watch every single 162 of those games, because that is cinema right there. Watching four teams battle off, when only two of them, when it's four of the most successful teams in the franchise, and only being able to make it, that'd be crazy. Just saying. So if we had league realignment like that would be very entertaining. But for league realignment to happen, oh my goodness, we have to have expansion league. So much has to happen in the major leagues for this to happen. But I would love to see that. I will say the Dodgers are playing their World Series right now, as their NLDS is against the Phillies. I still do think they are going to beat the Phillies, but the Phillies are going to give them, now that the Padres are eliminated, I think the Phillies are going to give them a run for their money. They're the toughest team to go against, but I still think LA comes out on top. And that's also big reason, spoiler, if you haven't already noticed, as I'm recording this on the 8th, the Dodgers are already up 2-0 in the NLDS. The Cubs and the Padres, I fully thought the Padres were going to win this matchup. They are kind of similar to the Dodgers in a pay to, you brought over Xander Bogaerts, you have Manny Machado, you have Luis Arraez, who you brought over in a trade, you have Fernando Tatis Jr., you traded for Mason Miller this year, and I get Mason Miller has a little bit of team control. I think he has 2 years of team control, so I understand in making that trade because you have him for a couple more years outside of that, but AJ Preller, when is it time? Because you swung and you missed on Juan Soto, and then you traded Juan Soto away. You've technically swung and missed on Luis Arraez, and then you almost traded Luis Arraez away, but you didn't. But he had probably one of his worst years, and by far his worst year ever in a Padres uniform. You went out and got Dylan Cease, and now Dylan Cease is a free agent, and he's not been what you expected, so I don't see them bringing back Dylan Cease. Michael King has been good for you guys, so you have that to look forward to, but every person you've brought in, you can beat the Dodgers in the regular season, but you can't face them in the postseason because, god damn it, you can't even fucking make it there. Imagine putting together a team to beat the Dodgers, and then you don't even fucking make it there, because that's what the Padres have done. The Padres technically almost got Dave Roberts fired last year because they were one game away from beating the Dodgers, choked like my Atlanta Braves this year did. And then now Dave Roberts signs an extension. You trade Juan Soto away. Granted, that happened afterwards. You trade Juan Soto away. You trade half your roster away. You make a big acquisition in getting Mason Miller this year. And you still can't even go and face the Dodgers in the NLCS or the NLDS. What? I just don't know how much more. I love the Padres as a team. I really do. But I think they need new management, and I think they need, and that's cleaning house, new GM and new coach. because clearly it's not working, and you are in a competitive as hell division. You're in a division that has the Dodgers as a pay-to-win. You have the Giants. They have Matt Chapman. They just made a trade for Rafael Devers this year. They're going to have a new manager after they let Bob Melvin go, but that's still a competent team. The Giants are always a good team. The Diamondbacks are always a competent team. They find a way to make it at least close every year. And then, of course, you have the Padres itself. So, like, your window is closing, I think, because all these other teams are only, like, except for the Rockies. The Rockies are, like, 2-3 years out on being competitive. But outside of that, similar with the Phillies, your window is now. You have to win this year. Well, you can't win this year, but you have to win next year. If not, your window might be closed. Okay, then I guess I just got to shout out the Cubs. Cubs played, before I go into the AL side of things, Cubs played really good baseball. AL side of things, it was very interesting. I personally was rooting for the Guardians to win that because that would have been such a cool sentimental story to be 15 and a half games back, to coming to September, having a 7% chance to make the postseason, and then not having just made the postseason, winning the division, and then taking the Tigers down, the almighty Tigers down, would have been kind of like the icing on the top for the Guardians season. But I'm not disappointed because I don't think it was a bad season for the Guardians. J-Ram had probably one of his worst but better years, considering it's J-Ram we're talking about. But this was an interesting year for the Guardians because they didn't really buy during the trade deadline because they didn't really know where they was as an organization. They went away from Shane Bieber, right? And then you kind of start picking it up July, August, September. And then you realize, though, that you can't. You pick up, it's kind of similar to what the Braves did, and I say that biasly, but you pick up and you start playing good baseball after the trade deadline where you can't go and make these acquisitions and you kind of just have to stick with what you got. But what they had worked out for them. Granted, the Tigers went on the biggest cursed downfall of all time, but it worked out for them. That was a fun series. I still do like the Tigers being obviously in the DS because I'm really high on Skubal. I think he's going to win the MVP Young this year. AJ Hinch and Alex Cora are actually two of my favorite managers. I know they came from the whole cheating scandal in Houston, but I like the way those two manage. They manage a baseball game as in today is the day we need to win the game. I don't care about tomorrow. I care about today, and I absolutely love that mentality, especially for Alex Cora and Boston. I mean, obviously it didn't work out for Boston, but that's the type of mentality that you need in that locker room. Red Sox Yankees, I think this was the funnest series by far. Game one, I came out and I said it was going to feed families. You had Max Fried going against Garrett Crochet. That was cinema, a masterclass. And that game, it was perfect. Max Fried pitched lights out. He was so electric. And then Garrett Crochet said, "Hold my beer. Max Fried, you thought you pitched well? Here, hold my beer. Let me do one better. And let me do one better. And let me, he came out and he told this because Alex Cora came out and said this. He told Alex Cora the night he got the ball that he was going to make one call to the bullpen. One call. Sorry, I don't know if you can tell. This is me holding one finger up. One call to the bullpen. And that was going to be for Chappie, for Ridless Chapman. And you want to know what Alex Cora did that night? He made one call to the bullpen. Granted, now it did come in the 8th inning with 2 outs. But still, he went 7 2/3 and made one call to the bullpen to get Chapman out to come out and do a 4-out save. I don't know what Aaron Boone was doing and why he did take Max Fried out of the game that soon. I was very upset with that. Max Fried obviously is one of my favorite pitchers, have played for the Braves for the past 6 years. I think Max Fried pitches best in October. And I understand that he had traffic on the bases, but you have to let Max Fried finish that inning unless he freaking gets a home run on the very next pitch that he gives out. You let Max Fried finish that inning because I trust Max Fried with finishing that inning more than I trust the entire Yankees bullpen and Yankees starting rotation not named Max Fried. Like, if you're telling me the bases were loaded, no outs, and do I want Max Fried on the mound, or do I want Fernando Cruz? Do I want David Bednar? Do I want Devin Bum-Ass Williams? Like, if you're asking me all these guys, bases loaded, no outs, I want Max Fried on the mound. I don't want David Bednar. I don't want Fernando Cruz. I don't want Bum-Ass Williams. I want Max Fried. It sucked to see because I'm really high on Max Fried, and obviously I hate the Yankees, but it did suck to see Max Fried pitch such a good game and get the loss. But shout out Alex Cora, shout out Garrett Crochet, and shout out Boston Red Sox. That game was amazing. Games 2 and 3. Game 2, honestly, I thought they had it too. Shout out Jazz Chisholm for the way he ran the bases, and I think that was kind of the turning point, because obviously it's a 3-game series. If Boston wins that game, Yankees are out. And then from there, the Yanks got a little bit of momentum, and that little bit of momentum was just enough to propel them into the division series. Now, the division series, the Yankees, I think, forgot how to play baseball a little bit. They did win Game 3, which was huge. Aaron Judge put all the rumors of him being a ghost to bed. He got a huge 3-1 shot that he pimped the absolute shit out of. But, damn, this Blue Jays team is good, bro. Like, electrifying. This Blue Jays team has a superstar in Vlad Guerrero Jr., as does this Yankees team and Aaron Judge, right? This Blue Jays team has a good pitching staff. The Yankees have a decent pitching staff. This Blue Jays team has a bullpen I trust. The Yankees, I do not trust their bullpen with my life, with anything. I wouldn't trust them to watch an ant. That's how bad that bullpen is. Management. I'm really high on Aaron Boone. I mean, he's a dumbass sometimes, but me too. He just be like us for real. So can't really blame him. But like on paper, the Blue Jays have everything on paper for this to be a championship team. I think the Blue Jays are going to come out on top. They've been playing more complete baseball. I've been very upset with the Yankees starting rotation, including Max Fried. Max Fried in the second game that he pitched. Yes, I know I talk so good about Max Fried. He came out and pitched against the Blue Jays and allowed 7. He didn't get through the 3rd inning. Now that's tough. That's not the Max Fried I know. And now that when Max Fried can't get out of the 3rd inning and you have to use your bullpen, now that's gonna hurt you. And I don't trust the Yankees bullpen. I really don't. So I do have the Blue Jays winning this series, but big pimp Judge shit for keeping them alive and saving their season. Now, with the Tigers and the Mariners, I would love to see the Mariners win. The Mariners have such a fun team with J-Rod, with Cal Raleigh, who I think Cal Raleigh should win the MVP this year. The reason I think Cal Raleigh should win the MVP this year is because Aaron Judge has had a spectacular season, but this is the type of season that we would expect from Aaron Judge. These are the numbers that we came accustomed to. We expect Aaron Judge to hit 300 with 40 dingers and 100 ribbies. And like, I know that's a lot of pressure we're putting on Aaron Judge, but that's the type of player he is. And that's kind of, and maybe it's a little biased because he has won it in the past, but Aaron Judge showed me something that he's already done, and he's already shown that he can do. Cal Raleigh just showed me something that a catcher hasn't done in like 50 years. Cal Raleigh showed me something that a catcher just did. Cal Raleigh just hit 60 dingers. Cal Raleigh did it from both sides of the plate. Cal Raleigh played in every single game this year. Like, if you take Aaron Judge off the Yankees, I still think the Yankees... Okay, actually, no, I don't think the Yankees make the postseason. But I still think the Yankees can play good enough to stay competent enough in that wild card, okay? If you take Cal Raleigh off the Mariners, I think the Mariners are bum cheeks. I think they're straight ass. $. Like, they don't know what to do because they have such a great pitching staff, but their pitching staff can only do so much. And when their offense doesn't show up, like it always does not show up because their offense is so atrocious, what do you expect? And it sucks because, like I said, this Mariners team is such a fun team. They have such a good pitching staff. Brian Wu, Logan Gilbert. It sucks so bad to see the offense not come through. I would love to see the Mariners win, the Blue Jays win. That is my prediction, I guess you can say. But I don't know if the Mariners offense is going to be enough because you lost game 1 and then you have to face Skubal twice. Granted, now you beat him in game 2 and that was huge. You needed that so big because you probably would have lost the series. And right now, you're getting belt to ass. You are losing 8-3, so you're probably going to get the series tied up. But at least you have a 2-1 series lead right now because that's huge. Because you're going to face Skubal one more time, and the series is going to be 2-2. I would love to see the Mariners come out on top of this, and I would love to see their offense actually perform. But we'll see. The Tigers do have a fun offense, though. Riley Green, he obviously had a really good year, was an all-star this year. Javi Baez, since getting moved around. I think this Tigers team in the future is a team to look out for. But I don't think they're ready this year. I think offensively they have the pitching. I just don't think they have the other offensive power. You need that superstar, all-star, and they have that in pitching. They just don't have it elsewhere. So I have the Mariners and I have the Blue Jays. So that is my AL, right? In the NL, and this one sucks because I'm a Dodger hater because fuck the Dodgers. It's a pay-to-win league. Fuck the Dodgers. I like Freddie Freeman. I like Mookie Betts, but fuck the Dodgers, right? But then I hate the Phillies. Now I don't have a reason to hate the Phillies. The only reason I hate the Phillies is because they're in the Atlanta Braves division, and that's why. I actually really like Nick Castellanos. His swing in MLB The Show 23, 24, 25. That's kiss. It's so good. Bryce Harper and Bryce Harper's TikTok, I follow that. I get entertained by it. It's fun. Bryce Harper's a fun player to watch play baseball. I really like Bryce Harper as an individual. Trey Turner is fun to watch, but naturally, if you're a Braves fan, you hate everybody in that division. So I hate the Mets. I hate the Marlins. I hate the Nationals, and then obviously I hate the Phillies. So if there was a way for both teams to lose this series, I vote that one. I don't think it's a way possible. And just because I hate seeing the Phillies succeed, I'm going to root for the Dodgers. But I hope the Cubs or the Brewers, whatever team is advances, can bounce the Dodgers out because fuck the Dodgers. And then the Cubs and the Brewers. This is a fun game, too, because it's Craig Counsell. It's his matchup against his former team. Obviously, Craig Counsell was the manager of the Brewers for 5+ years, and he actually probably was going to continue coaching them and then shockingly shocked the world and became the highest paid coach to go coach the Cubs. And everybody was like, whoa, Craig Counsell went from Milwaukee. And not only from Milwaukee to leave, he went to Chicago, a division rival. He stayed within the division and went to a division rival of all things. So that was crazy. So it is interesting to see Craig Counsell obviously going back to Milwaukee. And then it's crazy to see how well Milwaukee has been playing. They're up 2-0 in the series right now as I'm speaking, but they are down 1-4 in this game. And it's crazy because Milwaukee, they have a great baseball team. They have just enough of everybody that does enough. Their pitching isn't great, but it's good enough to get by. Their offense, they don't have that 1A superstar, but they have those perennial all-stars, right? Their bullpen is just enough to get close by, right? But their fan base is what electrifies them. And you just think but then you see teams like the Dodgers and you see teams like the Yankees that have these 1A superstars, and you're like, how did the Brewers, how were they the 1 seed? How did they have the best record in all of baseball? How do they have home field advantage throughout everything? So it's going to be interesting to see, because the Brewers played so well all year and earned home field advantage throughout this, how much of it matters, because you don't have that 1A type of all-star, but because you're at home and you're an amazing fan base, is that going to be enough to get you over the hump to complete the sweep on the Dodgers or the Phillies, depending on who it's going to be? I don't know. We'll see. But these matchups are electric. I've been enjoying them so much. I'm actually, like I said, watching the Tigers and the Mariners game right now, and Tigers are putting straight belt to ass on the Mariners. Fun times in baseball. So that's kind of a look back at the wild card and the division series, right? So final predictions. I have the Mariners beating the Tigers, and I have the Blue Jays beating the Yankees. And on the NL side of things, as much as I hate the Dodgers and I hate the Phillies, I have the Dodgers beating the Phillies, and I have the Brewers beating the Cubs. So Brewers, Dodgers, NLCS, Blue Jays, Mariners, ALCS. Like I said, the wild card was very entertaining. The division series has been just entertaining, if not more. We will see what those bring us for the championship series. That being said, I want to do a quick reflection of each division and just kind of where I expect them to be next year, because it was an interesting year for baseball. Let's just put it that way. I expected the Blue Jays to be good, I expected the Yankees to be good, and I expected the Red Sox to be good, okay? And I expect the Red Sox to be eons better next year. I expect the Red Sox to probably win the division next year. You get a healthy Roman Anthony, you get a healthy Marcelo Meyer, you get any healthy free agents that you can bring in because you're not on Devers' money anymore. The Yankees and the Blue Jays are probably, especially the Blue Jays with how great they've been playing, Blue Jays are probably going to be the team to beat in this division. But you have a lot of promising young talent. If you're Boston, you guys are on the rise. You're up. If I'm a Boston fan, I'm very happy for what Boston has to hold in the future. So for Tampa Bay and Baltimore, it's a little tricky because Baltimore had such a bad year this year, right? After winning 100 games last year, you had Adley, right? You had Henderson, who was on the cover this year. Maybe he got the cover curse. You had Jackson Holiday, and none of them performed. Granted, you had a lot of injuries. I think this team, their window came too prematurely, kind of in a way, where they was so good the past 2 years, but like I didn't expect them to win last year. Maybe the only reason I would have expected them to win last year was because they were pitching so good. But like offensively, even though they won 100 games last year and then 98 games the year before, I never really trusted this offense. And the one thing you will have is you have a shit ton of money to go out and spend. The only big contract you have is Tyler O'Neill's. The only other big contract you have outside of that is because you traded Cedric Mullins away is Adley Rutschman and whoever your DH is. Outside of that, almost everybody's on the goddamn minimum. I don't expect to. I would like to see Baltimore back into competition next year, but I know New York's going to be there. I know Boston's going to be there, and I know Toronto's going to be there. So do I really think Baltimore's going to be there? I think Baltimore's the odd man out. And then Tampa Bay, they're kind of like that team that's like they're complacent. They're always going to be good. They might not be amazing unless they make it to the World Series and pull Blake Snell in a game. But like outside of that, they don't do anything to go out and get like. I'm really high on the speed demon they have out in the outfield, Simpson. But like outside of that, they don't go out and get these it's kind of similar to how I was saying with San Francisco. This isn't an impending free agency spot. Free agents don't look at Tampa Bay as like, that's the place. I want to go to Tampa Bay. They might look at Florida, but they don't look at Tampa Bay. And then I just, with how tough this division is, I see the Orioles and the Rays as being the odd man out. The Central's an interesting division because I think for years to come, this is going to be the Royals division. I would like to see it be the Twins division. I don't know what the Twins are going to do this year because the Twins traded half of their roster away, but yet they kept Joe Ryan and then they kept Byron Buxton. Obviously, I think they're going to keep Byron Buxton for his career because he has a no-trade clause and he's talked about how much he loves it there in Minnesota. For the sake of his career, I would love it if Byron Buxton were to be traded, but I don't think he's going to get traded. It just sucks, though, to see Minnesota kind of waste away his career. It's kind of similar to Mike Trout. The only other difference is that you can say Mike Trout's made the postseason once, but it just sucks for Byron Buxton. I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to be the face of the league years to come. He showed a lot of potential last year, showed a lot of potential at the beginning of this year, then kind of fell off the face of the earth. But Bobby Witt Jr., this is an electrifying team. They have a good pitching staff, a young pitching staff that's on the rise. I like what the Royals got building. Tigers, I really like. Like I said, I'm really high on AJ Hinch. I like what they got building there. Tarek Skubal. It's just can you bring someone, because I don't think the Tigers are going to be able to duplicate. Obviously, you don't want to duplicate the latter part of this season because you guys were ass, but I don't think the Tigers can duplicate another season of Javi Baez being good, of having 6 All-Stars in the All-Star game, I think Tarek Skubal is a perennial All-Star Cy Young winner, but I don't think you can bank on everything else that has happened for the Tigers this year. I would love to see them stay consistent, but I think it's going to be a battle between the Guardians and the Royals next year. The Guardians, as long as you have J-Ram on your team, you're always going to be a playoff team. I think J-Ram does enough to get you to the playoffs. What he means for that team, what he does for that establishment, and then I don't know if we're going to see Stephen Vogt back there, but we might. Stephen Kwan, he's a really good contact hitter. He might be on the trade. I kind of have him as a name to look out for this offseason. But the Guardians have a really good team. They just need, I think, Stephen Vogt is one of those who, he obviously was a catcher, and I think catchers as managers make a lot of sense. But he kind of reminds me of David Ross in a sense when he started coaching with the Cubs. David Ross is, I still think, a really good. He was obviously a really good player, and I think he's a really good person and an individual as well. But just that first time coming into the league, coaching wasn't for him, especially during the Cubs. And I kind of feel like this with Stephen Vogt. Obviously, he has the knowledge from a catcher and whatnot, but coming in, I don't think he's ready yet. So that's like, I'm high on the Guardians. They have a good roster. Their pitching is always, they find a way to be good. It's just, I don't know if Stephen Vogt is the right person to be in management there. So I give the edge to the Royals because I trust the Royals more. But maybe if the Guardians can find that right guy, the Guardians are obviously going to be a team to watch out for. The West was an interesting division because this was the first time in, 14 years that the Astros hasn't made the postseason, which is kind of crazy. I don't know if it actually was 14 years. I kind of was exaggerating that, but legitimately it's been like 10 years. But it's still crazy to think that the Astros haven't or had made the postseason like the past 10 years because like I remember growing up as a kid. Do you guys remember when the Astros were in the NL side of things? Do you guys remember when Lance Berkman was the best player on the Astros? Do you guys remember when the Astros had the first pick and they drafted George Springer and they moved to the AL? Do you guys remember when Sports Illustrated had a copy and George Springer, I'm pretty sure Jonathan Singleton, and then Carlos Correa was on the cover of that? It might have just been Carlos Correa. But and it said your future 2018 World Series champs or something like this. And this, keep in mind, back in like 2014-13, right? And then it actually came a year early. They end up winning it in 2017. That same Astro, like, it's just so crazy because like as I was growing up, the Astros were like the laughingstock of the MLB. They never had a good team. They were always bad. Then like as I hit my like high school years, college years, and whatnot, the Astros have been the model of consistency. They've always been in the postseason. They've won the AL West the past like 7 years and stuff like that. And like it's just so interesting to see a team so dominant, or I guess so undominant, become so dominant. And granted, I guess you can kind of expect it. We saw Alex Bregman left this year. Framber Valdez didn't pitch a full year. Josh Hader obviously wasn't himself. Carlos Correa came back mid part of the season. They didn't have Kyle Tucker, who they traded away. Obviously a big difference in their roster, but just crazy that like the Astros were such a bad team and then went from being the model consistent, and then first year they missed the postseason. Skip Schumaker just got hired on as the Rangers' new head coach, and I think he is going to work wonders there, and I actually predict the Rangers to win that division next year. The Mariners are such a good team. The Mariners have such a good pitching staff. And if they can just add that bat, the Mariners are going to be a team to watch out for. I think the Athletics kind of had a super scary good season for being kind of like, hey, we're playing in a minor league stadium for the next 3 years. But like, I was very impressed with Brent Rooker this year. I was very impressed with Nick Kurtz. Nick Kurtz had one of the greatest rookie seasons in the AL. The fact that he had a 4-homer game, a 6-hit game. He had a 493-foot grand salami this year. Shout out Nick Kerr. I said Nick Kurtz. I did not say the word. Don't clip me, y'all. But the Athletics, they're a team that like kind of watch out for. I don't expect them to be good next year, but like if they had a run and they gave the Mariners, the Astros, or Rangers a run for their money, I wouldn't be shocked. The Angels are such an interesting team because Mike Trout's career is just getting wasted there. I've always been the type that I would say Mike Trout, I love his loyalty to the Angels. And I think that's what's most important. But at this point in Mike Trout's career, I do think he needs to win. I do think he needs to be competitive. I do think he needs to go and try to at least play in the postseason. The fact that we have not seen Mike Trout in the postseason since 2014, when his team won 98 games, and then they lost in the first round to the Royals. Like, it sucks not seeing Mike Trout and seeing him like having a better season. He didn't play the full year, obviously, this year, but he had one of the most successful seasons he's had in the past 5 years. And the Angels just like, I mean, Anthony Rendon plays third base. That's all I need to tell you for them. They're just, they're never going to get over the hump. And as much as I love Mike Trout's loyalty to that team, I think it's time that Mike Trout goes and wins. I think it's time. Now, that's not saying Mike Trout goes to the Dodgers. I'm just saying Mike Trout needs to go and win. Wherever that might be, not named LA, go do your thing, Mike. For the National League side of things, like I said, we already kind of talked about the NL West, so I don't want to get too much into that. The Dodgers as a pay-to-win league, the Padres as a pay-to-win league. I am intrigued to see what happens with Dylan Cease. I hope the Braves can make an aggressive approach on him as he's a free agent this year. But it will be interesting to see if the Padres try to bring him back, what the Padres do with Mason Miller. They have him under team control. I expect them to keep him, but are they going to trade a Luis Arraez this year? Because he was in a lot of trade talks last year, then they end up keeping him. You didn't get over the hump this year. You have technically Jackson Merrill who plays first. You have Jake Cronenworth who can play first. You also then have Xander Bogaerts who plays second, but you did just trade DeVries away, so maybe you don't need that shortstop because you want to keep Bogaerts there at short, and then you can put Jake Cronenworth is second, and then you keep Luis Ariz at first. I don't necessarily know, because AJ Preller has tried so much and it's not worked for this team. So how much more is he willing to try, I guess, is the question. The Giants will be an interesting team because they just let go of Bob Melvin, right? And I think Buster Posey, I have a lot of respect for Buster Posey. I think Buster Posey is doing an excellent job, but has a lot of pressure on him as well. But kind of like he said, he holds his managers to a very high standard, and he holds himself to that high standard. On that note, I firmly believe that if the Giants don't make the postseason this year, Buster Posey is going to be out, and he's not going to be part. If he holds himself to that highest standards, and you get rid of Bob Melvin after 1 year and it doesn't work out, if you don't make the postseason the next year, you hold yourself to that same amount of standards, and you yourself are out. So that's kind of what I have on Buster Posey. I really like him. I like the Devers trade. I know it didn't work out, but I think a full year of having Devers there, whether he play first base, whether he DH, whether he goes back to third, whatever happens with Matt Chapman there, I do think coming back in next year, a full year with Devers having an off season to figure out what's going to happen will be best for them. But I'm intrigued to see who they go out and get there as their new head coach, and then how they correspond with Buster Posey. Because when you're going up against the Dodgers and the Diamondbacks and Padres, that's tough. And the Diamondbacks are a team that's interesting. I don't get why they sold so much, because at the end of the year, they kind of became 80. Like, they technically ended the year on a 5-game losing streak. So at one point, you was 80-77. So you could have been close enough to make a final spot for that wild card spot, right? But then you lost all your games, and the Reds are able to sneak in. But I don't know. I didn't agree with trading Josh Naylor. I agreed with trading Suarez. I think it was time. You just got Josh Naylor this year, so why did you trade him away? It will be interesting. I think the Diamondbacks, do need to kind of hit a reset mode, and I think that's including trade. You keep Corbin Carroll, but I do think you trade Ketel Marte. His value is at an all-time high right now. There was some speculation with his leadership on that team this year. I think you just clear house. You get the value out of him while you can, and you build up with Corbin Carroll as the new centerpiece of your franchise. That's what I would do if I was Arizona. The Central is interesting. If you're the Pittsburgh Pirates, you trade Paul Skeens and get all the value out of him right now. If you're Paul Skeens, you demand a trade until you get traded from the Pirates. And it sucks because Paul Skeens had a 1.97 ERA this year, but we are seeing his career get washed away because he plays for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And it will probably be that way for the next 2 to 3 years. I don't see Paul Skeens ending his career with the Pirates, but I do see Paul Skeens being with the Pirates for another 2 to 3 years. I think he's going to be dominant. It's just he's not going to win anything. It's a whole Mike Trout situation all over again. But the only difference is Paul Skeens sees the field every 5 days, not every day like Mike Trout. The Reds and the Cardinals are an interesting team. The Cardinals have always been just that mediocre team that's always right there. That's close enough to potentially make the postseason, but not enough to be on the radar. So we'll kind of see. And then similarly to the Reds, Harry Francona coached this team very interesting this year. I feel like they could have done a lot more. They could have been a lot more aggressive besides just going out and getting Ke'Bryan Hayes during the trade deadline, especially when you're facing up a team like the Mets, who went out and spent $765 million on one player. You have to be a little bit more aggressive. And you're in a division that is so goddamn wide open. You have the Cubbies. You have the Brewers. Outside of that, if the Cubs fall off in any which way, you can take their spot. Granted, I know that they was 10 games behind the Cubs, but if you make a little bit more acquisitions during the trade deadline, or just do a little bit more, I think that's the Brewers and the Cubs division to fight for the next couple of years, with the Reds and the Cardinals kind of as the outsiders looking in. But I will say it was cool for the Reds to obviously experience the postseason experience, but man, that sucked to see them fight so hard at the end of the regular season to make it to the postseason, just to get walloped by the Dodgers in 2 games and get bounced. Then the last division, last but not least, we'll end it off in the NL East. I got to start off by hilariously laughing at the Mets. Guys, can you imagine? And I've said it 1,000 times and I'll say it 1,000 more. Can you imagine paying one person, one individual, $765 million, more than I will probably ever make in my lifetime, and you don't make the postseason? $765 million. Let that sink in. And no, I'm not talking about the sink that's at your doorway. $765 million, guys. And you can't even make the postseason. Now I get it. That's the thing of baseball. The Mets are in a tough division. You're going up against the Phillies. And generally in other years, I could say you're going up against the Braves, you're going up against the Phillies, and you have the Mets, right? This year, it was just the Phillies. That's all you had to worry about. It's the Phillies for the division, and then you just had to be better than the Marlins, the Braves, and the Nationals. Which technically you were, but like the Reds outbeat you for a wild card spot. You're telling me you have a guy on your roster that makes $700 million, and you can't get 85 wins in the regular season? The fuck? I mean, I guess it can kind of go with the Braves. I know, and the one caveat I will say is we had a bunch of injuries this year. Actually, hold on. Before I get into it, let me finish shitting on the Mets. So respectfully, fuck the Mets for paying. I will say it will be interesting to see what they do with Pete Alonso, right? Because he resigned technically last year. Dude, literally 10 minutes after the season, after they got eliminated, he opted out of his contract. I do not see Pete Alonso coming back to New York. And I don't see them being able to replace him with anybody better than Pete Alonso, which means I don't think the Mets are going to make the playoffs next year then, because if they couldn't make it this year with Pete Alonso, why would they make it next year without Pete Alonso? The Phillies, I think their window has to be the next 2 years. Schwarber's a free agent after this year. Castellanos is a free agent technically after this year. So you have to figure out what you're doing. Are you going to pay the two of them? Are you going to pay one of them? I think Schwarber comes back. I don't know about Castellanos. I don't see both of them coming back. I don't know which one of them. I would lean Schwarber, but I think one of them comes back, but I don't think both of them comes back. But I think your window is about now. Bryce Harper's only getting older. Aaron Nola is only getting older. Zach Wheeler's only getting older, and he's coming back off an injury. So obviously you have one of the greatest 1-2 punches out there, but he's going to be coming into a season off of surgery. So that will be interesting to see how well Zach Wheeler pitches. Your bullpen, you are kind of traded half them away, but I think your window has to be this year or next year. We have the Cubs, we have the Padres who have Pete Crow Armstrong, Jackson Merrill, all these young players, the Boston Red Sox with all these young guys. Like we have Bobby Witt Jr., we have these teams that once these guys get in their prime, they're going to be playing for it. So if Bryce Harper wants another ring, his window is the next 2 years. And then we'll end it off with the Braves. I don't fucking care about the Marlins or the Nationals. Just kidding. No, not really. But Braves, this is an interesting year because Brian Snitker obviously is not coming back as our manager, and I think that was the right decision. As much as I love Snit, and he's obviously still going to be with the team, he's going to be in a senior advisory role coming back for his 50th year. I have much love for Snit being with an organization for 49 years, going on 50 years. Shout out to Brian Snitker. That's an amazing thing to do. We only want you are an Atlanta Brave legend, but I do think it was time that you hung it up, because there was something. I watched the Locked On Braves podcast with Jacob Mizorowski, and he said two things. One thing he said is you can't have this roster again next year, and then if similar things happen, you can't make the same excuse of, because if he did come back for one last ride, it was gonna be the last ride, right, the final dance or whatever. But you can't make the excuse of, the last dance didn't go as planned, because now you had one bad year turns into 2 bad years, and then we're taking 2 bad years out of Acuna's prime, out of Albies prime, out of Austin Riley's prime, and all this stuff to where, like, okay, yes, we can maybe have the 1 year that it didn't work out, but we as the Braves cannot afford to have another year. We with a roster of Matt Olson, Ronald Acuna Jr., Jurickson Profar, and Austin Riley, Michael Harris, like, we have a World Series roster. We cannot hope that our manager can get back into his ways of the 2021-2022 season. And like, I love Snitker and I love what he's done for us, but he is a basic manager. We didn't bunt it all this year. Michael Harris was terrible this year. I mean, he picked it up at the end of the year, but Brian Snitker's way of fixing that was moving him down in the lineup. Are you fucking kidding me? You're going to look at a guy struggling and you're going to fucking make him bat 9th? Yeah, because that's going to bring his morale up. We fucking had Ronald Acuna Jr. batting 7th this year. 7th. Because that's going to bring his morale up. So I do think that it is time that we made that change. Like I said, Snit's still going to be with the company, still going to be able to have his 50th year, but I do like the change. I would like for us to bring in someone that we maybe bunt, we sacrifice, we do a little suicide squeeze. And then one thing I will say is, and Jacob Pazrowski, he said this too, with the roster of our team, right? The Braves should have at least been able to get to 85 wins. There's no reason, there's no excuses for that. But the one excuse I will say is our entire starting five went on the IL. Chris Sale was on IL for 2 months. Spencer Strider didn't start the season, was on the IL multiple times. Spencer Swellenbach ended the year on the IL. Ronaldo Lopez ended the year on the IL. AJ Smith-Shawher had Tommy John surgery, ended the year on the IL. Grant Holmes ended the year on the IL. So like we as much as yes, offensively we have these players, when it comes down to it though, we didn't have anybody freaking pitching the ball outside of Holston Waldrop that was good, because every person that we was pulling up, Alexis Diaz would come in and walk the first 5 batters. I feel like it was more because we didn't have the pitching. That's why. And then the other caveat I will say is we played in like 35 one-run games this year, and I'm pretty sure our record was 11-24. If we can just turn half of those around, or if we even swap that for 24-11 and get those 11 wins, guess what? We're looking at 87 wins, and we're in the postseason above the Reds. Or if you even get half of those, and that's okay, we give ourselves 7 wins, right? That's 83, 84 wins. We're still in the postseason right there fighting with the Reds and the Mets. So as much of a bad season as it was, I think we really can put a lot of it on our pitching staff because we didn't have a pitching staff. So that being said, this upcoming year, we had a Max Fried, we had a Spencer Swellenbach, we had a Chris Sale, we had a Spencer Strider. Like, that's what we had last year. And coming into this year, that's what we kind of should have, excluding Max Fried this year. We have to replace Max Fried. We cannot go out there and not replace Max Fried. We didn't replace Max Fried last year. We have to replace Max Fried this year. Dylan Cease is a big name that's going to be out there. I know we tried trading for him a couple of years back. Go out and make an aggressive offer at Dylan Cease. AA, please, I'm asking, I'm begging AA, go and make an aggressive offer at Dylan Cease. Go make an aggressive offer at 1, if not 2 starting pitchers. And then we need to go get a new manager. I know Walt Weiss is probably going to interview for it, being kind of Snit's right-hand man, right? I would like to see Ron Washington interview for it. I don't think either of them would get it. I would love to see Ron Washington come back with the Braves, even if it's at the third base coach. Would love to see him back there, or as an advisory role. Would love to see Wash come back. But Wash has also came out and said if he's healthy, he wants to be coaching. So I want to make sure that Wash can do what Wash wants to do at the end of the day. He's done so much for the Braves organization that I'm not going to hold him back. The guy on my biggest board was Skip Shoemaker, but he's already been taken by the Rangers. Bob Melvin kind of in there, but he kind of gives me similar to Brian Sinker vibes as an older, hard-nosed type of dude that kind of is just going to let the players do what they need to do because they have the players at the end of the day, which we are playing the players at the end of the day, but I do think some players, even though they are the ones getting paid at the end of the day, I do think it's necessary that we have a manager that's willing to make some of those decisions, that's willing to switch around the lineup and needed. One guy I'm actually really high on is the Tennessee Volunteers coach. Now, I don't know if he would leave college to come coach in the big leagues, but I think having kind of getting a new resume, someone who has a lot of college success, a young brain like that, coming into the majors, I would love to see that within the Braves organization. Now, I don't think they would do that, but I don't think it would be dumb to go out and get someone with a younger mind who can kind of look into the ways that baseball is changing. You know, it's chess, not checkers. It will definitely be interesting to see who the Braves get as their manager. I'm very curious. And then, of course, we need to go out and get a shortstop. Now that we found Ha-Seong Kim, we just need to re-sign Ha-Seong Kim. I'm really high on Ha-Seong Kim. I think he did just enough. I think he has that pop at shortstop that we didn't have from Nick Allen. He didn't even hit a freaking home run in the entire year at shortstop. And then we had Ha-Seong Kim. He came in, hit like 3 in his first 2 weeks. I really like Ha-Seong Kim at short. Bring back our roster. We'll see what we do with Marcelo Ozuna. We'll see what we do with Iglesias. I think both of them come back. For sure, Iglesias. I don't know about Ozuna. I think both of them come back, add some starting rotation, get a good manager in there, and I think this team, I don't think, I know this team can take down the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Red Sox, and they will be the 2026 World Series champions. Guys, that is it. That is enough of my yap session today. What a wild MLB season. What a wild card round. You see what I did there? And then this division series has been nothing less of entertainment. I cannot wait to go watch the Yankees get shit on, hopefully by the Blue Jays, and Vladdy hit another dinger. I need me that. Tonight, I'm going to go watch Tron. The new Tron comes out. I've literally been waiting for this for like 10 years. So that's what I'm gonna go do. Super excited for that, y'all. The next episode might be a week, might be 2 weeks. It might be a baseball one, depending on how we are with baseball. It might be a football one. We are in the middle, the first, we finally just started having bye weeks, but we're in the midst of football season. And basketball is here too. Media day just happened. Braun had a second announcement that we all thought was going to be his retirement, and he told us he was taking his talents to Hennessy. I need me some Hennessy, bro. No, just kidding. But yeah, Braun did that, this whole troll, and it was literally just an ad for Hennessy. We all knew it was going to be an ad of some sort. I personally thought it was going to be a Prime Day ad because it is Prime Day as I'm recording this. But yeah, he came out and did the whole thing of his decision when he went to South Beach, right? Did the whole thing and said he's taking his talents to get some Hennessy. So I was like, hey, when LeBron is in year 23 and I'm in year 25 and he's doing what he's doing, I don't ask questions. Just saying. But that's all I got for today's episode, y'all. Like I said, in the future episode, basketball, baseball, football, to be determined. You know what can help determine that? Put it in the comments, y'all. Let me know what y'all want me to talk about in the comments. Leave a like, subscribe if you're all new, and I'll catch y'all in the next video. Peace and love, y'all.